mode.
Okay, full board except for Miguel Rodriguez, who will be here late. So, Chief, you want to kick it off?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This evening, just a basic agenda, no interviews. At the end, just for some personnel matters, I'd request that we go into executive session just to touch on a couple things. Start off in new business. I did forward the commission the minutes from the February meeting for your review. Discussion on any of that? Any omissions, errors, concerns? I always throw something in there for you, Commissioner. Being nothing to discuss, could I have a motion to accept them as written? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Going into the monthly reports from February, as I indicated in the email earlier this week, we're having a little bit of an issue with the software of pulling numbers and equations and stuff. So I do have some information to share with you, and as soon as we square that away, I will push the report out to you as well.
Chief, just for the record, Council President Rodriguez has walked in. Commissioner Rodriguez.
Welcome.
Dr. Wilcox, 86 Motors, everything else. What other titles?
What chat does he have on? The other thing, as far as monthly reports, I did forward the monthly report from the Intel Center. A little more expanded than the previous one, and I'm working with them. We want to do a couple more tweaks to it and kind of build off of that. So,
Can I see the hard copy?
Yep. I don't know if that's useful for the commission to see. I like some of the charts and the maps. Yeah,
Yes.
pops up. But looking at what I do have for the, February monthly stats, in the month of February, we handled 2,341 calls for service, which was a 3% increase over January. Part 1 crimes in the month of January, we had 35. 9 of them fell in the violent category, 26 in the property. Out of those, 19 of them were related to larcenies, stealing of property. January, we had 43 Part 1 crimes, so we had a little bit of a decrease from January to February. Part 2 crimes in the month of February, we had a total of 42. January, we had 54, so again, we saw a little bit of a decrease in crimes, and just as a reminder, we did have more calls in the month of February. Arrests for the month of February, there were 160 arrests made in comparison to 125 in January. Traffic summons, officers issued 225 traffic summons in the month of February compared to 179 in January. For the month of February, there's a total of 7 uses of force, which equates to 4.4% of the total arrests. 7 incidents of uses of force. And during the month of February, we responded to 2 calls for shots fired, and both calls were unfounded. Any questions on those stats? And I apologize, but we'll get that out as soon as we're able to square some of those issues away. Moving forward, the police officer exam, as you're aware, is scheduled for April 9th. The applications were due this past Monday, the 7th, or last Monday, the 7th. We have over 450 applicants, which I thought it was really good, and I really need to thank Sergeant Regino, who headed up our recruitment efforts and coordinated and put everybody out into the community and far-reaching into the Hudson Valley to some colleges and different places to recruit. So definitely kudos to him. That we still are in line to do the crash or the cram course with police tutorial services. That is scheduled for March 27th. And we did hold a question and answer session in regards to the exam here in this room on March 2nd. We had 10 or 12 persons. I thought it was very lucrative, a lot of valid questions and comments and good discussion. So the people that were there seemed to really appreciate it and took something away. So I think it was well worth it. Moving into staffing, currently the department has 1 vacancy. We currently, as of today, we have 70 sworn personnel with a 71-person budget. Out of the 70 I have, 1 is on disability, 1 is on maternity. 1 will be going on maternity, I apologize. 2 are in field training, 3 are in the police academy. And we just had 1 new officer start this week. That was Officer Sullivan, who was interviewed at the last meeting. He passed all of his testing and he began his career with us. He will not have to go to the police academy because he is a certified police officer, so he will jump right into field training as of Monday. Officers Carabello, Harcher, and Rupert passed their field training this past week. They did their final ride-along, their final exam with the lieutenants, rode around on the streets. They passed everything, so they've been cut loose to work on the squads. Very excited, sat down and had conversation with them all individually after their successful completion of the field training. They all seem like very motivated, productive members, so I think we have good officers coming up. Officers Yuvin and Zagui are still progressing through the field training. They're the ones that graduated from the police academy this past February, so they still have a little ways. We're probably looking at July by the time they're done, but they are progressing, doing very good. Detective Sergeant Jennings, he has officially informed me that he is retiring as of March 31st of this year, which is 2 weeks away. His last day with us will be March 30th. His retirement will be effective the 31st. He will have completed 19 years with us, and he had about 6 years with NYPD before he came to us. We will be hosting a luncheon for him and then a walkout on March 30th, so all are welcome. The luncheon will start at 2 o'clock in our classroom. The walkout will be 3:45 that afternoon. For those that know Sergeant Jennings, he is an asset to this organization. He will definitely be missed. With him leaving, that creates a vacancy in our sergeant's positions. So I'm not sure if the commission is willing to interview in April to fill that position of sergeant. So that would be up to the commission as well.
Sure.
Okay. So I will prepare the candidates for the April meeting for sergeant. With that vacancy also leaves a vacancy, or with that retirement leaves a vacancy in our detective sergeant's position. Very, very vital position for the organization. All the investigative work comes out of that department. My plan is to replace Sergeant Jennings with Sergeant Rob McCachy. Rob is currently in narcotics right now as the unit commander, has a strong desire to be the detective sergeant. It's a passion of his. He was a detective for several years, and I think he's a great fit. So we'll be making that transition. They'll be working together over the next 2 weeks, and then he'll officially take his role effective March 31st in that position. Also on the staffing level, I have some plans that if all goes well, April 4th, I'll be putting a few details out into the community. One will be a downtown officer. I'll be replacing Officer Gallagher, who was promoted to sergeant. He was our downtown officer for the last year and a half or so. I'll be replacing his position with someone to work the downtown till at least throughout the summer into the fall, see how the need still is. I'll be putting a traffic detail together, at least one officer. That'd be their primary assignment, is to perform traffic details, vehicle and traffic stops, follow up on complaints, whether it's stop sign, speeding, whatever it may be. And I'll also be putting together a 2-person plainclothes crime suppression team to go out and do some proactive policing in some of our hotspot areas. That'll be in addition to the neighborhood enhancement, which is still running with 2 officers. And probably shortly thereafter, I'll be looking to rotate the officers out of neighborhood enhancement, or at least one of them, and start that rotational transition again. Any questions in regards to
Chief,
staff?
any foot patrols?
Foot patrols, we'll put that out to all patrol officers as soon as we really get the weather changes, so here anytime. And that's something we encourage, that every officer gets out and does foot patrols on a regular basis, at some point throughout their patrol shift. That's something I speak to all of the new people about as well as they finish up their field training, the importance of that.
So it won't be like a requirement for like an hour?
No, I don't want to go that route unless if we don't get any response. That would be, follow-up of mandating that there's a certain amount of time. Try to give them a little bit to do it on their own in between their calls first. I think we start that way every year and then see how they respond before we go to the mandate. Unless you want something different.
Let's wait and see how they do.
Any other questions on staffing? Training since our last meeting, just go through some of the trainings that the department has participated in. Currently, we are performing one of our yearly in-service trainings for the department. All personnel through the department go through these. We do them in the spring and the fall, and we hit the required trainings and then some other things that we feel are needed to bring people up to speed or to address concerns that we're seeing. This round of in-service training is more of the required stuff, so it is PPE is the personal protective equipment, and then workplace / sexual harassment training, and CPR AED recertification. We've also had Detective Artola was the physical fitness instructor at the police academy for a period of time since our last meeting. Sergeant McInerney performed drill instructor duties at the police academy. Just about the whole patrol division, including supervisors, participated in alert training, which is active shooter training. It's a refresher course. We did it during the midwinter break from the school because we utilized the school building. So I'd also like to thank the school for that. We sent them a letter and thanks to allow us to do that. That was a week-long training that rotated through all of the patrol staff. We had Detective Bailey's trained up in NIBIN training, which is an ATF software program that analyzes bullet fragments and bullet casings for data and statistics and comparisons. It's an amazing piece of equipment, and we're very fortunate to have one of our own people trained in it and has access to that. So if we come across a shell casing or a bullet fragment, it could be scanned by this instrument. It's a very high-tech instrument, and those pieces of data are compared to other pieces of data throughout the Northeast, so we can link crimes together and give us a little bit more investigative ability. We also participated in commercial vehicle awareness course. That was Officer Hart in Monaco. Officer Carabello was trained up in the use of the radar. He came from New York City, and many New York City officers don't get the radar training down there. So we try to get that to them as soon as possible when they get up here, because we do have a V&T component. Sergeant Regino taught arrest processing at the police academy. Detective Rosen taught narcotics and dangerous drugs at the police academy. Lieutenant Hargent, Sergeant McCacci, Officer Thornton, and Officer Napoli all attended innovative public safety collaboration training. Officer Berman, Officer McDonald, Sergeant McInerney attended K-9 training. And Officer McDonald also attended the Explosive Detection K-9 Handlers Conference. And Lieutenant Tholen taught sexual harassment, cultural diversity, hate crime investigations at the police academy. So try to stay very active with our training and keep it across the board for many people. Moving into some of our new programs, I've spoken several times about the Youth Leadership Academy that we're running. Very successful. We're very happy with the program. We hope to continue it in some form or fashion and expand upon it. We've had some guest speakers come up. We're coming to the conclusion. We will be hosting a graduation for the participants here in this room on March 30th at 5 p.m. The commission is welcome to attend that. Great group of kids, very interactive. Last night's session, we had two of our community members come and speak. Very like real deep stuff that they spoke to them about, and real attentive. You see the kids taking notes and really engaging and stuff. It's really nice to see. And additionally, they'll be going on a field trip for any of them that get the permission slip signed, and this is all paid for by the grant as well. As a reward for them committing to this program, because it's all just voluntary, we're going to take them to the 9/11 Memorial in Manhattan and give them a little field trip down there. So it's been a really, really good experience. So again, March 30th, 5 p.m. here will be their graduation ceremony. The other new program that we're still working on is the Lexapol, which is the policy procedure that was approved by the council. We are full bore into this now. We've had numerous meetings with the company. We have all the data set up, and now what we'll do is on a weekly basis, we meet with them via Zoom to actually work on specific policies. There's 160 of them altogether, and we'll go one by one to take their draft compared to our current policy and merge them together to make it fit the needs of our organization. So far, so good. They predict with our department our size, a little over a year it'll take us to get through this whole project. And that's meeting once a week, knowing that there's going to be some weeks that we have to cancel due to vacations or other things that come up. But they say it should be about a year or so. Moving forward, since our last meeting, we've had no one out or exposed to COVID, which is good. I think we've kind of moved past that for now. We still have to be cautious, but happy to say that this is the first time in several months we've had no one out due to that. Some case review. I brought some cases along that I feel are noteworthy. I'll just go over them, and I have them if you want to talk about them more in depth. February 15th, this was actually just prior to our last meeting. We had a robbery. It occurred in Davenmore Heights. It's a robbery of a taxi. Suspects are 3 teenage male subjects, and they're armed with a handgun. As of this time, we have no real details on our suspects, other than that they're 3 what are believed to be males. They had masks, hoods, the whole thing. No one was injured, thank God. but definitely alarming, and I'll show you why it's more alarming in a moment. Just going in sequential order, on the 18th of February, our department assisted the state police with an armed robbery that occurred at the Gulf Station on Dawson Avenue, just over the city line. The information was put out immediately using some of our information, or our technology. The flock system helped us, as well as proactive patrol. As the vehicle was leaving, it cut through the city. Walk-kill officers and our officers located the vehicle on Wisner and North Street, stopped the vehicle, and subsequently 4 people were arrested, recovered 2 handguns from that. So that was a great job by 3 departments. It was us, Walk-kill, and the state police. The crime actually occurred in the town of Walk-kill, is being investigated by the state police, but just bringing everything together, putting information out, using technology, there's a quick apprehension there. On the 19th, and this is related to the same incident on the 15th, in the area of 47 Sproat Street, we had an additional robbery of a taxi. Again, 3 young male subjects believed to be the same 3 that were involved in the David Moore Heights situation, again armed with a weapon, or what's believed to be a weapon. Still no real information with this. This one is a little bit more challenging for us to investigate because the taxi cab driver did not notify us or call us for 2 hours after the incident. He continued working and then waited till he finished his fares and then called us. So we were behind the clock by 2 hours starting that investigation. So again, we don't have a lot of details with our suspects. Just talking to people, trying to find some more information. Moving forward, on February 20th, I did email this out to the commission. This was the homicide on Maryland Avenue. So our suspect, Houston Coppin at the time, was arrested and charged with murder second. Coppin stabbed the victim, Nicholas Lacatina, once in the chest during a physical altercation, causing his death. That case was presented to the grand jury, and I'm sure the commission has seen this in the media. On Friday, March 11th, the grand jury ruled that Coppin was justified and was issued a no bill in the case, which means that he was found that his actions were justified, that they believed he was defending himself and his home. Not based so much on the no bill, but just the incident in itself, because it was a very chaotic incident. Watching some of the body camera footage, the officers did an outstanding job with what they were presented with and the chaos and the confusion. We conducted a debriefing in-house to kind of break it down and go over and use it as a training opportunity for the officers that were involved. And again, outstanding job. If anybody would like to watch any of the body camera footage from that, I'd be more than willing to bring that so that you can watch that. From the medical attention to dealing with the chaos of the family and just people running and not knowing what's going on when they first get there. Outstanding job. And March 4th, this is again assisting another agency. We assisted state police once again. They had what came in as an armed robbery at, this is March 6th, an armed robbery at 443 State Route 17, which is North Street right next to Maddie's Diner. Our officers responded, were first on scene with state police, and ended up taking the subject into custody. 17-year-old male lives on Edward Diana Way, and he was in there with a loaded handgun, nonchalantly, like nothing was going on. Again, watching the body camera footage of this, they're amazing in so many ways. They don't just help us with things, but to see what the officers are seeing is absolutely outstanding. Just going back, I skipped one, I apologize. March 4th, Officer McHugh was on patrol. He receives a tip from someone that a subject, and described the subject to him, was walking around with a handgun on him. He ends up locating the person walking in the area of 418 North Street, conducts a field interview on him after he commits a minor city code violation. Ends up being that the subject does have a loaded firearm on his person. He was 39 years old, Howard Privet. His address is Maples Road. Illegal. It was actually, that gun was reported stolen in 2007 to the Orange County Sheriff's Office.
Chief, the DA has just put out a statement recently that anyone with an illegal loaded firearm on them will be a minimum sentence of 3.5 years.
Billboards too.
Billboards too. Do we know if he's pursuing those charges, or are they?
So these are very recent, so I don't know what the outcome of those charges are yet.
If you could just have someone flag these in our department to follow the case, I want to see if what is being said is not plea bargain down, because he's saying
Minimum of 3.5 years.
minimum 3.5 years. with a loaded illegal firearm.
Yep. Commissioner Rodriguez, I have some statistics for you as well on that I brought with me today. And the last case of noteworthiness, I believe, is a search warrant that our narcotics unit executed yesterday, the 16th, in Red Barn Lane. This is a subject that they've had a long investigation into. He's a repeat offender, and they arrested him yesterday with 26.5 ounces of cocaine. Remember, 16 ounces is a pound. So he had quite a bit of cocaine on
So
him.
that's Red Barn in the town of Waukegan?
Town of Waukegan.
We made the arrest?
We
What
made the
number? What
arrest,
number?
the investigation originated here, and that just ends up being his home. The 9 Red Barn was the actual address. Would you guys like any further details on any of those cases? Are there any other cases that you would like to discuss that you're aware of?
People versus Rodriguez?
In progress. We have to talk about that one in an executive session.
Your plainclothes unit will go after people like this with the guns and,
That would be our goal.
yeah. That's,
Any of those hot spots, like if we have a spot of robberies or assaults, that will be the focus. Utilizing those maps that are coming from the Intel Center are going to be very instrumental in directing that group. And if it doesn't work, we'll pull them out.
We used to work with the FBI and the state police, and every 2 years do a roundup. And are we still working with them or no?
So I still have Detective Nyland assigned to the Safe Streets Task Force. He was assigned there full-time for 10 years, and when I pulled him out about 3 years ago, it was because we were not getting that return on our investment. It felt like they were utilizing our resource of Detective Nyland for investigations elsewhere. I spoke with the director of that organization at the time, and they just felt that there was stronger needs elsewhere, which is good for us, knowing that we don't have that volume of crime. However, I wanted some return as well. So he works as our liaison. He doesn't really go out of the office here to go down there anymore, but he has that conduit to utilize them for resources when needed. And the other good thing about it is when they do investigations that have any connection here, he gets that information. He gets to sit in on the proffers and kind of keep kind of the volume going. Moving forward, I did forward the commission some internal personnel investigations. I don't know if the commission has had time to review them, if they'd like to discuss them.
I have no questions on them.
No questions? Anyone? Okay. So I'm just gonna read them just for the purpose of records, the ones that I did forward, and then if there's any discussion, we'll talk about them. If not, I'd be looking for a motion to accept them as written, or if you want to further discuss them. But the ones that were forwarded, the first one dated June 13 of 21, that was a personnel complaint. It was made by Ralph and Patricia Savarese against Sergeant Welch and Police Officer Troya, alleging unprofessional and disrespectful conduct. After internal investigation, I believe that is an exonerated complaint. Next one would be August 28th, 2021, a personnel complaint made by Karen Catherine McLean against Police Officer Monaco, alleging harassment. After an internal investigation, find that to be an unfounded complaint. November 9th, 2021, personnel complaint made by Astuki Harada, I apologize if I mispronounced that, against Police Officer Gass, alleging improper investigation. After internal investigation, I find that to be an unfounded complaint. April 30th, 2021, internal investigation in regards to a use of force injury sustained by defendant Nicholas Case involving police officers McHugh and Ryer. After an internal investigation, I find that the use of force was justified and that there are no violations of departmental policy. May 21st, 2021, property damage motor vehicle accident involving car 34 and police officer Ryer. Basically this, I know Officer Ryer's had a little bit of a questionable driving experience, but in this one I don't believe he had any fault. He was out of the car was parked, and a bystander backed into his car. So I find
no luck.
no violations of department policy on his behalf. Poor guy. He still comes to work though and does a good job.
Give him a bike.
No, that's how people get hurt. June 2nd, 2021, damage to a vehicle rim. Officer Beebe, she hit a curb, not intentional, no reckless behavior. June 21st, 2021, off-duty domestic incident involving police officer Schoenlieber. After internal investigation, we find no policy violations. June 26, 2021, damage to another rim by police officer Ortiz. He struck a curb he struck a curb responding to the medical incident, very serious medical call where a car struck a pedestrian. No ill intent, just bad luck pulling up onto the curb or onto the sidewalk. October 24th, 2021, damage to a patrol rifle. No policy violations. This was probably from taking it in and out and just being put in and out of the gun locker or gun lock. December 8th, 2021, another damage to a police vehicle rim. Police officer Monaco, he was actually conducting a U-turn to perform a vehicle stop and hit the curbing. And the sidewalls of these tires don't hold up very well, and he tore the sidewall. Again, I don't think there's any ill intent and no violations of policy. January 21st, 2021, this was deemed unauthorized use of department equipment and unauthorized entry into a private building by police officer Schoenlieber. This I do find violations of department policy, and this is something that I have provided him a 40-hour suspension by way of lost time and reassignment out of his position. February 3rd, 2022, internal investigation into habitual tardiness of police officer Dorian Prezzuti. This was a violation of department policy, I find, and I have given her a 4-hour suspension by way of lost time. Would anybody like to discuss any of them in more detail? Questions, concerns?
Not by me.
I'll motion to accept them.
Question? I have no question. Okay. So I have a motion by Commissioner Rodriguez to accept them as written. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Mills. All in favor?
Aye.
That is basically all I have on my agenda this evening, unless the commission has anything they would like to discuss. Eileen, is there anyone online that has any questions?
Not at this time.
We have one person in the audience today. Mr. Massey, do you have any questions that you would like to discuss? Thank you, Mr. Massey. And thank you for your efforts with the police exam. We appreciate that. I know you got beat up that last day, so
Thank Pam, too, please.
thank Pam as well.
Thank Pam first.
She's the one who did all the work.
That's right.
He said it on the record. It's recorded. So being that I have nothing more on the main agenda, the other items I have, I believe, will be better suited for executive session as they are personnel matters pertaining to 207C.
Motion to go in executive session for personnel matters.
Second?
Mr. Massey?
Mr. Massey has to leave. All in favor?
Removed.
Do we have a second?
To get me removed?
All in favor? So we'll be moving into executive session at 5:05 PM.
Please be advised this ends the public portion of today's meeting. Thank you.